How to know if you got divorced from an energy vampire narcissist. Have you ever wondered why you felt so drained and wiped out in the marriage or the relationship to the narcissist? And over the years, this left you feeling like a wiped out, empty shell of a person. It's almost as if your life force was literally being extracted from you in this time. Well, in today's video, I'm going to explain exactly why and how this happened to you. I'm all about understanding psychology and neuroscience of emotional abuse and how to get well from it. But there's also a spiritual aspect of emotional abuse, and if you can watch to the end of this video, you'll gain a fantastic awareness and understanding of what exactly happened to you, and best and most important of all, how to stop it happening to you ever again. Hello, I'm Sarah. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and empowerment coach for women after divorce. I'm also a thriver myself after having created my own incredible transformation from the effects of narcissism after a 2 decades long marriage. So today we're not just talking about the Colin Robinsons of the world. If you've ever watched What We Do in the Shadows, you'll know what I mean. We're talking a whole different level of vampirism, the real deal. Vampires, or the living dead, they do exist. And were you married to one? So you may think, I got divorced, it doesn't matter now. And that's understandable. We don't really like raking over things in the past, but we do need to make peace with the past, and we need to have an awareness of what happened to us. But this is a massive but. Your likelihood of attracting another energy vampire is quite high, unless you have recoded yourself for better relationships. So the reason is that you could still be coded as a match to them, so that you risk attracting a similar energy vampire relationship in the future. In other words, the relationship dynamic is still active within you, even if you got divorced a few years ago. So it's one thing you don't want to do is to brush this matter under the rug and pretend it's not going to happen to you again. Because if you want to create an incredible life and an incredible love life and attract safe relationships in the future after your divorce, this is the one thing you've really got to understand and get clear on. So did you stay stuck for years in a narcissistic relationship? I know I did. And it may or may not surprise you to realise that you were living with your very own personal vampire for decades. And the regrets you have may feel really strong on this point. I know it's something I felt, but I want you to know that it's not your fault. And if you can watch this video right till the end, you'll gain so much awareness and insight that you will become empowered to never let this happen to you ever again. And the really important thing to remember is that we have free will, and we just don't realise, or we didn't realise, that we had this at the time. And you probably remember the old stories that vampires have to be invited in. You're in charge of the energy you let into your life. Or, rather spookily, in the words of the ex in my life, is that people will only do to you what you let them. And I want for you what I want for me, what I've been able to achieve, is that we're done with narcissism. Surely we've lived enough of that. And it's time to get the lessons we need to learn, to take radical responsibility for everything that happens in our life, and to change it and move on. It's the only way to get free. So I'm going to use a few diagrams here to help out in a little bit, so you can easily go back and revisit some of the main points if you need to. Okay, so it kind of all starts at the beginning of where we have learned about relationships, And a narcissistic relationship doesn't happen by accident. It happens because at some level we became familiar with mistreatment when we were little, and we were used to not getting our needs met. And I just wanted to go through, this is fairly basic, but it's quite important to have these foundations of understanding. So the ideal upbringing is this. Okay, so the source of supply for a new baby is mum. Okay, and a baby's needs are these, and we think, you know, if we've raised children, we will have a really good understanding of this. But we need to be very secure about our understanding, because things progress from this basic foundation. So of course, the need for safety and security. Babies are very underdeveloped, so their needs have to be met, because they're completely helpless. Human babies have no way of running away from danger. They're not developed enough to keep themselves warm. They have to have clothing. They need enough sleep because they're growing so fast and developing so fast. They must have that sleep. They must have love and connection to their caregivers and to their tribe. These are all survival beliefs. These are all survival requirements. Also, sensory stimulation helps the brain develop, and it also helps to connect with their environment, which is a necessity. And of course, food as well. So the ideal upbringing is that really parents, even if we've had quite a rough upbringing, I think I heard of, and I need to just check this, but I heard that it was about you just need to be a good enough mum to supply those requirements for a baby. I think it's about 80% effectiveness. So, you know, we all strive for perfection, I suppose, but that, you know, a baby can feel okay with about 80% of a good enough mum. So, so as a child grows and matures, as it's developing a greater awareness of itself. I'll just go to this diagram here. So the needs of the child still have to be met by the tribe, an increased reliance on other people in the child's life, but there's sort of a developing sense of skills and a greater sense of autonomy. So as it grows and matures, the source of supply, this is really important, the source of supply is still mum and the primary caregivers, and also other people, connecting to other people in the tribe. So the child learns self-care skills to the degree that mum and dad can model them. They understand about how to, hopefully from reasonable parenting, how to keep themselves healthy. And they also, you know, the general thing is to be educated, to learn skills that are required for growing into an effective adult. Social skills are all part of this as well. Of course, there's a growing connection with a larger group, the tribe, the world in general. And also the child is also realising, hopefully, its unique nature. Its self-identity is really getting to know who they are as a person, and their uniqueness. There's also emotional development going on, to the degree that the parents can model it. And there's also a sort of a growing understanding of relationships within the family and how those function, to the degree that they function well or not. And just a little reminder, here's the hierarchy of needs, in case, oh, can't see, that's not quite on the screen there. So the hierarchy of needs, this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and there's a little bit of debate about whether love and belonging should actually, some people argue about belonging not being there, some people argue that love and connection is part of the safety, which it is really. But this is basically the triangle to self-actualization, and at the bottom of the triangle, sorry, I need to hold it up, don't I, we've got the physiological needs. It's about the whether needs are met. So the physiological needs and the safety needs are right at the bottom of the triangle, and we're talking absolute basic survival here. So this is like survival mode, okay. And then other needs also need to be met, so that's love, connection and belonging, being part of the tribe, being part of a family, being able to give and receive love and affection. That's a part of, an important part of the whole child. So this is a bit like a holistic model, the whole child here. Raising levels of self-awareness and self-esteem is part of the process of having needs met. And then self-actualization, this is the connection to creativity, connection to spirituality, and to a connection to life, creation, God, if there's a belief in a higher power, and the universe. So this is the example of a holistic, how needs are met. All needs need to be met for a child to feel a good sense of well-being. Okay, so that's the sort of perfect model of how things are supposed to work out for a child. I can just pop that down there. So we talked, when we saw the triangle at the bottom two levels, we've got physiological and safety, and that's kind of like survival mode, because the other elements might be missing. So for families who are stuck in survival mode for one reason or another, there's a disconnection to other elements of this of human need for connection, belonging, spirituality, creation, creativity and expression, and artistic expression, that sort of thing. There's this sort of disconnect. So solid beliefs about being deserving, being lovable, that existed at birth for every human. And babies do believe, when they're born, they believe they are completely lovable and that they are so deserving of having their needs met. But things change from in childhood, especially in families stuck in survival mode, that these beliefs are eroded, and that's when and they're eroded because parents can't model how those needs can be met, don't meet the needs of the child, don't know how to meet their own needs as a human being, and this is how these beliefs are eroded. So the cycle of mistreatment becomes familiar as the humans adapt and try to get their needs met in other ways, and this is the beginnings of narcissism or vampirism, because it starts in the family. So I was able to create a life free from narcissism, and you can too. But it's really important for us to understand how these cycles of mistreatment get set up, or this cycle of emotional vampirism or energy vampirism, because these are people trying to get their needs met in other ways. So it's something I had to learn about. It was a painful lesson, but now I have a greater awareness, and I became empowered to create a happier life, a connected life, and to know how to break that cycle of energy vampirism and the cycle of mistreatment and abuse. And this cycle appeared in our primary relationship and our marriage as well. So it's something that may well have happened in childhood, but we're repeating the cycle in our primary relationship. So I'm just going to go to another diagram now, and hopefully this will, you may have come across these these models before, but we're looking at it from the point of view of being involved in this connection to an energy vampire. And I'm treating this as a serious subject. When I've looked online, there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, you know, this person who always comes to talk to me is an energy vampire," and they're talking about sort of transient relationships. But here we're talking about the real deal. We're talking about primary relationships, intimate relationships that have been ongoing in your life for a long time. The cycle can run indefinitely for years, just continually round and round and round. It's difficult to know where it actually starts and where it ends, but I think what we'll do is we'll start with the love bombing phase, the idolization phase, where you are adored and made a great fuss of. We know this is all fake, by the way, I hope by now. These are signatures of narcissistic relationships and manipulation, by the way, so don't ever be fooled by love bombing again. So the cycle, so round the outside, this is really how the perpetrator's manipulating, and in the middle is the victim, and the victim is actually the source of supply for the perpetrator. Thoughts just occurred to me, you know, how powerful we were to be. We didn't feel like it, but this person was completely dependent on our interactions with them within this bubble for their significance, and we were kind of giving that to them, but really we should be giving it to ourselves, shouldn't we? Just a little side thought there. So the cycle runs, so there's this sort of period of love bombing, idolization, adoration, and then it kind of peters out a little bit. There's sort of breadcrumbs being offered here and there, and then there's a period of relative calm or normalcy. We know there's nothing normal about this relationship dynamic, but it's where there's a period of calm, and you think, you know, if it could be like this all the time, it'd be fantastic. But it never lasts, because the breadcrumbs begin to peter out a little bit, and then we get into this part of the cycle where the tension is beginning to build. There's a sense of devaluation going on, and a sort of, so that the victim's beginning to feel less valuable, less needed in the relationship. And at all times it's about the interaction between the victim and the perpetrator. So the tension continues to build. The breadcrumbs have stopped. So in this period you might get periods of silent treatment, gaslighting. Things are beginning to happen, and the pressure is kind of like increasing until there is some kind of incident. It might be emotional, psychological, physical. There's a sense of being punished, and this discard, you've probably heard of the discard, this is when it happens. And this sort of, a complete devaluation, a complete discard of the relationship. And this person is sort of absolutely minimised and made to feel rock bottom. And then gradually might be periods of silent treatment again here, and then gradually then maybe there's a bit of hoovering going on. So the hoovering is the linking in part. There's a bit of hoovering, which means they're sort of trying to get your attention back. They're trying to sort of start the cycle again with little inputs of something. You'll know what they were for you in your cycle, and there's an element of love bombing going on again, sort of trying to draw you back into the cycle when you think it's gone. There's this, oh, there might be some hope. Okay, he really does love me after all, and then it all starts again. So in this cycle, what you can see is it's kind of like an energy balancing going on. It's never balanced, and the victim is never in control of what's happening. They're always on the back foot. And the perpetrator is continuing and is in full control of the manipulations that are going on to create this energy transfer. So these little arrows here represent like an energy transfer. And just a very quick diagram up here, an energy imbalance is like a seesaw. You know, it's on a fulcrum. It's just teaching a little bit like that. There's like a balancing going on. But so it's never balanced. It's always the victim. Whenever the victim feels down, the perpetrator feels amazing. So the worst parts here, there's a growing sense of the perpetrator really, because it's win or lose. You lose, I win. You feel rubbish, I feel great. Okay, and then it continues. So what might start this tension and devaluation is maybe after this part of the cycle, there's some kind of the victim starts to maybe have some success in work. Maybe it's their birthday, or there's something significant going on that the perpetrator doesn't like, so we'll try to alter the balance of energy. So the feel-good energy doesn't last for long, because along comes the perpetrator and starts with these manipulations again to get themselves pumped up. Like a deflated balloon, aren't they? Times like, an obvious example is during holidays, during the Christmas holidays or something like that. There's a sense of I can remember those, feeling, a birthday or some kind of celebration, and everybody's feeling excited and anticipating, some happy events, and then along comes the tension starts to build, and the energy just starts to dip. But the significance of this is that they are in their own little bubble. There's no external part to this, and there's no set, so they each have to find significance from each other in some way, and validation. Because this is a sort of vortex of need. The victim or the perpetrator cannot find a way of generating significance, validation from within. They have to get it from each other in some way. And the difference is, so there's a lot of similarities, but the difference is that the perpetrator has no moral compass, as we know. Don't we? Right, you don't really need a video to tell you that. Narcissists have no moral compass, so they will do anything to get a supply of significance in this environment. And they have no conscience, no empathy. They will do whatever it takes to feed their energy. And at the same time, the victim is also constantly seeking reassurance and validation from the perpetrator, and will accept levels of mistreatment and even abuse to gain that, because that's something they've been familiar with. To have their needs met comes at a price. And the breadcrumb effect is also an important part of that they will put up with the mistreatment if they're getting little sort of bouts of validation or significance. And also for the perpetrator, this is they don't have to go to a great amount of trouble to keep this going. This is the easiest way of gaining supply, and the breadcrumbs is like the least possible effort they will put in, because they can't spare much effort, because they haven't got much energy for themselves. They're trying to create it for themselves within this dynamic. It also explains why the victim has a very who does have a moral conscience, who does have a moral compass, and they are usually highly empathic and very sensitive people, because they are highly attuned to the dynamics of what's going on here. And the reason why they're highly attuned is because they need it for their own sense of validation and significance, but it's something that they grew up with. This is a subject of another video. So a lot of people who find themselves in this relationship dynamic are probably quite highly intuitive, but there are blind spots because they're not seeing these as dangers. They see them as okay, but they are blind spots. So they're not very. They've got the capacity, they've got potential to be very intuitive. They might be highly empathic and highly attuned to the needs of the perpetrator. So this cycle can run for years and years and years, decades. And it's about the frequent long-term energy transactions, and it's the perfect connection for an energy vampire. Because the thing that an energy vampire fears more than anything is that their source of supply runs out, because it takes a lot of energy to find another source of supply. It's all about energy, expending energy, getting energy, and what creates the biggest bang for the least amount of energy expended, and that's the breadcrumb effect here, and keeping their victim in this circle or this web, however you want to describe it. So it's a parasitic relationship, and they depend on each other. And it's an energetic seesaw, as we've described. But the thing is that they are closed off from the real source of connection so the real source of supply is our connection to universe, to the creation, to God, if you believe in God, to life. And they don't see that as possible. They only see this as being in a zero, or the perpetrators in a zero-sum game. I win, you lose, that's it. And the vampire connection is really, isn't it, what we know from the stories and that we've read or that we've seen in movies, that vampires seek the blood of their victims. And what's blood? It's life force. So here's the parallel. So narcissists are seeking our life force in this sort of generated bubble cycle of giving supply, because they can't generate their own significance from within. They have to get it from outside. They have to take other people's life force. And that's why, after decades of being in a cycle like this, victims feel completely emptied out. They feel like shells of feeling like shells, or the shell of a person. And they've literally been losing their life force to the narcissist for many years. Does that make sense? So this is a spiritual lesson of the highest order. And the irony of this situation, which we need to really understand if we're going to get our lives back better than it was before, is we need to free ourselves from becoming prey to energy vampires like this in the future. And this is a spiritual lesson of this experience. So I'm just going to change the chart. So there's two diagrams here. This one is the bubble that both the victim and the perpetrator are in. It's a bubble of they're not conscious of being connected to anything else. It's like they're disconnected from life. So they're constantly seeking validation from each other. They're like a vortex of need. And what they don't realise, and the irony, is that they can be as connected as everybody else to life, source and creation. So if we look at this little diagram here, this is source. I've sort of done it as sort of up in the sky. We kind of look up, don't we? We think, oh, it's God, source, creation. So this is a stream of connection, of consciousness from creation, God, life, nature. is all around us. At any time we are connected or can be connected to this stream of higher consciousness, like in nature, there's a flower in the tree, and the little rabbit there, and other people. Everybody has access to this source of creation. But there's that person who is totally disconnected. And they've been stuck in this bubble in survival mode because they're not fully actualized. They're not meeting all their needs on the pyramid of the hierarchy of needs. They're kind of acting in survival mode. And they don't realise they have access to this constant stream of higher consciousness that everybody has access to. And they're stuck in this sort of field of their own little energy bubble of lack and limitation. And we call this sort of unconsciousness because they're unconscious, they're unaware of their connection to a higher energy. And it's unlimited. The thing about source connection is it's unlimited. It's available for everyone. It's abundance is there for everyone, and people who feel that they're not connected to this source are sort of separate from the stream of this higher consciousness. And the problem is that people who are stuck in little bubbles of like this, bubbles of unconsciousness, they believe that they're not lovable. And they believe that they can't get their needs met in life just by existing, just by being who they are, that they have to go out and find how to get their needs met some other way. And they feel powerless to create their own connection to life. They can't generate that love energy, abundance energy from within, because all of these people who are connected, source is expressing through them. And as long as they have their connection to source, they feel whole and actualized, as in the holistic needs of a human being. So people who are stuck in lack and limitation are sort of stuck in this vortex of need, and they see no way of getting beyond it. And this is our job, of being stuck in a narcissistic relationship, stuck in that cycle of abuse, is for us to realise that we are connected. We just have to open ourselves to being connected to life and everything, because we're deserving, because we are on this world the same as everybody else. And it's not me win, you lose. It's like everybody has this connection. Everybody. It's just whether they choose to see it or not. And that's the lesson. We can stay in our little bubbles, or we can accept that we are part of creation, and we're just as deserving of the good things in life as anybody else on this earth. And this is how we start creating a good life on purpose, because we believe we are deserving of living a good life. And this is the lesson. So, I hope that you can see the point of this little video, and that and I wasn't kidding about vampirism. It is actually true that these people who live in this world of lack and limitation, and a narcissist is an extreme version of that, because obviously there's a spectrum of people who you might be connected in one area of your life and disconnected in another area of your life. That's for another video. But a narcissist exists in this world of lack and limitation, and it's very unhappy, a very unhappy existence. And it's basically a spiritual catalyst. Our experience is teaching us to connect to all of life, and we can create a happy ending no matter what's happened to us. So I hope you found this interesting. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.